Let me ask you something. Have you ever looked in the mirror and thought, there's more in me than this? Have you ever felt like you're meant for something bigger, but life keeps throwing punches faster than you can swing back? You're not alone. You see, life doesn't hand out invitations to greatness. It challenges you, it tests you, it dares you. And it's in those moments when everything feels like it's breaking that you must decide who you're going to be. Rise above. Those two words are not just a phrase, they are a standard, a command, a line drawn in the sand. Most people spend their entire lives reacting to pain, reacting to fear, reacting to their past. But what if you made a decision today to no longer react, but to rise, because life is going to hit you, life is going to disappoint you, people will betray you, you will lose, you will fail. You will fall flat on your face in front of the world. But listen closely, it's not what happens to you that defines you. It's what you do with it. Your past is not your prison unless you decide to stay in it. Your pain is not your identity unless you wrap yourself in it. Your failure is not your future unless you quit. And guess what? Most people do. Most people tap out. They choose comfort over growth, safety over risk, average over excellence because rising above hurts. Because rising above requires work. It requires confronting everything you've been avoiding. It demands you to stop blaming, stop complaining, stop waiting, and start deciding. Let me tell you something right now. You were not born to be ordinary. You were not made to be a follower. There is a lion inside of you, but you've been feeding it scraps. You've been caging it with your doubts, your fears, and your excuses. But that ends today. Because there comes a point in every person's life, and maybe this is your moment when you've got to say, enough. Enough with the stories, enough with the patterns, enough with playing small. You must rise above the fear that's been choking your potential. Rise above the environment that told you to settle. Rise above the voice in your head that keeps whispering, you're not enough. Because you are. You've survived every dark day you thought would break you. You've endured pain that most people never saw. You're still standing and you don't even realize how powerful that makes you. You don't need permission to change your life. You don't need a guarantee. All you need is a decision, a moment of absolute clarity where you say, I'm done living below my potential. I'm done letting life happen to me. I'm going to rise. Listen, life doesn't change when you get a degree or a job or someone finally sees your worth. Life changes when you decide you're no longer going to settle, when you decide to rewrite the script, when you stop chasing validation and start living with intention. You want to rise above. Start by breaking the pattern of waking up tired of your life, the pattern of comparing yourself to others, the pattern of numbing your pain with distractions. Kill the patterns and you take back your power. You want to rise above, then raise your standards. You don't get what you want, you get what you tolerate. And if you keep tolerating disrespect, low energy, procrastination, comfort, then that's what your life will reflect. So today, raise your standard, demand more from yourself than anyone else could expect, speak with certainty, move with purpose, look in the mirror and declare, I will not leave this life without giving it everything I've got. You see, the greatest tragedy is not death. The greatest tragedy is living 80 years and never truly living, never truly feeling fire, passion, power, never feeling what it's like to be fully alive. That changes now, because the moment you commit to rise above, you wake something up inside you. The moment you say, I am no longer my past. I am the creator of my future. You shift the game, you become dangerous, dangerous to mediocrity, dangerous to every excuse you used to hide behind, dangerous to the version of you that played it safe for far too long. Now don't get me wrong, rising above doesn't mean it gets easier. It means you get stronger, you'll still fall, you'll still bleed, you'll still doubt, but you'll also rise and rise and rise again. Because you'll no longer be driven by feelings, you'll be driven by vision. You'll no longer need motivation, you'll have purpose. You'll no longer need to be pushed. Because you've decided that the old version of you is no longer welcome. And one day not far from now you'll look back and say, that was the moment I changed my life. That was the moment I drew the line. That was the moment I chose to rise above. So I leave you with this, whatever's been weighing you down, release it. Whatever's been scaring you, face it. Whatever's been holding you back, break it, because you are not your past. You are not your pain. You are the storm. You are the fire. You are the voice that will not be silenced. Now rise. Your past is a lesson, not a life sentence. So many people walk through life dragging the weight of their past like chains around their ankles. They let their mistakes define them. They let their traumas own them. They replay the worst moments over and over again until those moments become their identity. But the truth is, your past was never meant to be a prison. It was meant to be a classroom. Every heartbreak, every failure, every betrayal, every dark night you didn't think you'd survive, those weren't punishments. They were instructions. They were preparing you, sharpening you, molding you into someone capable of more. But you have to make the shift. You have to stop looking at your past through the lens of pain and start seeing it through the lens of power. You can't rise while looking backward. You can't become your highest self while still anchored to the version of you that broke, fell apart, or got lost. That version of you is gone. It served its purpose. It played its role. It showed you what you're not so you could figure out who you are. But if you keep living in that version, you keep repeating its story. The pain will recycle, the fear will multiply, and the life you were meant to live will pass you by. You weren't born to relive the worst days of your life. You were born to grow beyond them, to extract the lessons, to turn your scars into symbols of strength. But that only happens when you refuse to stay stuck in what happened and start focusing on what's possible. There are people who will try to keep you in your past. People who only remember your mistakes. People who remind you of who you used to be, but they don't get to write your story. They don't know the battles you've fought behind closed doors. They don't see the nights you've cried yourself to sleep or the mornings you still got up anyway. Let them judge your past. You focus on building your future. Let them hold on to who you were. You rise into who you're becoming. This is your life, your evolution, your path. And no one else gets to limit it because of the chapters you've already lived. There is no shame in your story. There is only power in your comeback. There is only strength in your survival. There is only fire in the fact that you're still here, still standing, still trying. You're not here by accident. You didn't make it through what you did for nothing. You've been prepared for something greater. But you can't receive what's next while clinging to what's gone. You've got to let it go. You've got to release the guilt. Release the shame. Release the regret. Not because what happened was okay, but because carrying it is killing your future. You can't build something new with hands full of the past. Growth isn't about pretending nothing happened. It's about owning what happened and still choosing to evolve, still choosing to love, still choosing to believe there's more, because there's more for you, more life, more strength, more light, more joy. But it all starts when you decide to rewrite the meaning of your past, when you stop seeing it as proof of your limits and start seeing it as proof of your resilience, when you stop saying, "Look what happened to me," and start saying, "Look what I overcame." That's where your power is. Not in the pain, but in what you chose to do with it. Not in the loss, but in the way you kept moving forward despite it. Not in the wounds, but in the wisdom they left behind. Comfort is the enemy of growth. It seduces you with ease, with familiarity, with the illusion of safety. It tells you you're okay where you are, that you don't need to push, don't need to stretch, don't need to evolve. And the moment you buy into that lie, you stop expanding. You stop learning. You stop becoming who you were meant to be. Growth doesn't happen in the comfort zone. It happens when you step outside of it, when you feel the discomfort of the unknown and choose to keep going anyway. That discomfort isn't punishment. It's a signal. It's your edge, and your edge is where transformation lives. Most people want change without challenge. They want progress without pain. They want to rise without resistance. But that's not how it works. Anything meaningful, any breakthrough, any elevation, any lasting impact requires you to go through discomfort. It requires you to face your fears, to do things you've never done, to enter rooms where you feel unqualified, to take risks that stretch your courage. Because the truth is, you cannot grow and stay comfortable at the same time. One will always sacrifice the other. You either sacrifice comfort for growth or growth for comfort. You can't have both. Comfort convinces you to wait. Wait for the right time. Wait until you feel ready. Wait until the fear disappears. But the perfect time doesn't exist. Readiness isn't something you wait for. It's something you create by taking action. And fear doesn't disappear. It transforms. It turns into power when you face it. It turns into clarity when you move through it. But none of that happens while sitting still, hoping for things to magically change. Nothing changes until you do. And change only comes through challenge, through effort, through the uncomfortable process of doing what's hard, not what's easy. The moment you choose growth, you'll be tested. You'll face doubt, resistance, setbacks, uncertainty. You'll be tempted to go back to what's familiar, even if it no longer serves you. That's comfort pulling you back. That's the part of you that fears change, fears failure, fears standing out. But the greatest version of you, the one buried underneath all that fear, only shows up when you push through it, when you silence the noise, when you stop negotiating with your limits and start demanding more from yourself. Every breakthrough you seek is hidden behind a layer of discomfort. Every goal you've been dreaming about is sitting on the other side of effort. The body you want, the mindset you need, the relationships you deserve, the career you desire. It all requires you to grow into someone new. And that growth comes at a cost. The cost is comfort. The cost is ease. The cost is letting go of who you were so you can become who you're meant to be. It's uncomfortable. It's inconvenient. It's unpredictable. But it's necessary. You weren't born for a life of mediocrity and playing small. You weren't made to stay in the same place, thinking the same thoughts, living the same patterns. You were designed to evolve, to rise, to stretch your limits and become more. And the only way you do that is by challenging yourself daily, by doing what scares you, by seeking the edges, by leaning into the resistance instead of avoiding it. Because the pain of growth is temporary, but the regret of comfort lasts forever. There is no version of you that rises without resistance. There is no breakthrough without breakdown. There is no level up without letting go. You don't find greatness in ease. You find it in the fire, and that fire is where you discover what you're truly capable of. Not when it's easy, not when it's certain, but when it's hard, when it's uncomfortable. When it forces you to choose between staying the same and stepping into something greater. That's where you grow. That's where you rise. You don't need permission to rise, just a decision. Too many people are waiting for someone to approve their dreams, waiting for a sign, waiting for the right time, the right support, the perfect alignment of circumstances. But life doesn't reward those who wait. It rewards those who move, those who decide, those who look at their current reality and say, "This is not where my story ends." No one is coming to hand you a better life. No one is going to knock on your door and offer you transformation. That power belongs to you and only you. Every breakthrough begins with a choice, not when you're finally ready, not when you have all the answers, but when you draw the line in the sand and say, "I'm done waiting," because permission is a myth. It's a mental trap, a story your mind tells to protect you from the risk of failure, rejection, or discomfort. But the truth is, the longer you wait for someone to validate your potential, the more time you waste not stepping into it. The world doesn't need more people asking for permission to live fully. It needs more people who are bold enough to rise without being told it's okay. There is power in making a decision with certainty, power in choosing to rise even when no one understands you, even when it's messy, even when you're scared, especially when you're scared, because every time you wait for someone to say, "Now you're ready," you delay your own evolution. Every time you second, guess your calling, your vision, your purpose, you weaken the momentum that could change everything. A decision is not about having it all figured out. It's about being clear on what you will no longer tolerate and what you're now committed to becoming. The moment you stop asking for approval and start trusting your own voice, everything shifts. You stop shrinking to fit into spaces that can't hold your potential. You stop explaining your dreams to people who were never meant to understand them. You stop apologizing for wanting more, for being different, for dreaming bigger than what your environment taught you to expect. You start owning your path. You start walking with intention. You start building without waiting for a blueprint. Because leaders don't wait, creators don't wait, game changers don't wait. They decide, and that decision creates momentum, clarity, progress. Every successful person you admire made a decision long before the world validated them. Long before anyone clapped for them, long before they had the proof that it would work. What separated them from the rest wasn't talent or luck. It was the decision to begin without certainty, the decision to rise without permission, the decision to trust themselves when everything around them said otherwise. That's the edge, that's the power, not in waiting but in choosing, not in hesitating but in moving, not in asking, am I good enough, but in declaring, I will grow until I am. You already know what you want. You already feel the pull, that vision that won't leave you, that idea you keep burying, that version of you that keeps trying to wake up. Those aren't accidents, they're reminders, they're invitations. They're calls from the future you that already knows what's possible. But the only way to meet that future version is to decide, to stop living in the maybes, to stop asking others if it's okay to rise. To stop waiting for a sign and become the signal. You are the author. You are the force. You are the one who decides what comes next. Standards shape destiny, raise them. Raise your life. Everything in your life right now is a reflection of what you've been willing to tolerate. The level of energy you bring each day, the quality of your relationships, your finances, your health, your inner peace, all of it stems from your standards. Not your goals, not your hopes, not your dreams, but your standards. Because you don't get what you wish for, you get what you consistently demand of yourself. And most people never rise, not because they lack talent or desire, but because they never demanded more than average from themselves. The life you want doesn't come from wanting more. It comes from expecting more, from setting a new bar for what's acceptable. It comes when you stop settling for less than you know you deserve. When you say, this level of thinking, this level of discipline, this level of focus, this level of results, they're no longer enough for me. That's the moment everything changes, because standards are not about external conditions, they are internal expectations. And the moment your internal expectations rise, your external reality has no choice but to follow. Most people lower their standards to match their current circumstances. They shrink their vision to fit the opinions of others. They water down their goals so they don't feel the pressure of failure. But nothing great is born from low expectations. Nothing extraordinary comes from doing what's comfortable. You've got to raise the bar so high that it forces you to evolve. So high that you can't reach it by being the same version of yourself. So high that it pulls you forward, demands more of you, and doesn't allow you to quit when it gets tough. Raising your standards doesn't mean chasing perfection. It means refusing to settle. It means deciding that you're no longer available for things that drain you, for habits that waste your potential, for environments that dull your energy. It means setting a new baseline for how you show up every single day. How you think, how you speak, how you treat others, how you treat yourself. It's about showing the world what you're no longer willing to accept, and more importantly, showing yourself. When you raise your standards, excuses disappear. You stop waiting for motivation and start acting out of alignment with who you're committed to becoming. You stop negotiating with laziness. You stop playing with distractions. You stop tolerating the things that kept the old you alive. The new standard becomes your identity, not something you try to meet, but something you live, something you breathe, something you hold yourself to even when no one's watching. This isn't about external validation. It's about internal conviction. It's about holding yourself to a higher level because you know what you're capable of, even if you haven't seen the results yet. The results will come. They always come when the standard becomes non-negotiable. When failure is not an option, when I'll try becomes I must, when maybe someday becomes it starts now. That level of intensity changes you. It rewires your habits, your focus, your urgency. Look around at the areas of your life where you feel stuck, frustrated, or falling short. Chances are the standard there has been too low for too long. You've tolerated chaos. You've normalized procrastination. You've accepted good enough when your soul is screaming for excellent. That misalignment creates suffering, not because life is unfair, but because you haven't yet drawn the line and said, I'm done living like this. When that line is drawn, a new standard is born. And with that standard comes power. With that standard comes clarity. With that standard comes an identity shift that no longer supports the old limitations you used to live by. You weren't born to survive, you were born to lead. There's a fire inside you that didn't come here to play small or blend in with the crowd. You didn't come into this world just to get by, just to follow orders, just to live according to someone else's expectations. You came here to make an impact, to use your voice, to move things forward. But somewhere along the way, life may have convinced you that survival was enough, that staying safe, avoiding risk, and fitting in was the best you could hope for. And that lie has kept too many people locked in a life far beneath their true capacity. Leadership isn't a title. It's not reserved for CEO or public figures. Leadership is a decision, a way of being. A commitment to show up fully in your own life first, so you can guide others through theirs. Leading doesn't mean having all the answers. It means being willing to step first into the unknown. It means being willing to rise when others are frozen. It means being the one who sets the tone, raises the standard, and brings the light when everyone else is consumed by the dark. You don't lead because you're told to. You lead because something in you refuses to settle for less. Survival teaches you to react. Leadership teaches you to respond. Survival keeps you focused on getting through the day. Leadership forces you to build something bigger than yourself. When you're in survival mode, your vision shrinks. Your energy is spent trying not to fall apart, but leadership expands your vision. It demands that you live with purpose, with discipline, with clarity. It makes you look in the mirror and ask, am I just existing, or am I becoming who I was created to be? That question breaks the cycle. That question sparks the shift. You weren't put here just to clock in and out, to chase comfort, to fear rejection, to please the world while betraying yourself. You were put here to be an example of what's possible. To rise so high in your own life that your presence gives other people permission to rise in theirs. And that starts by stepping out of the mentality that says, let me just get by. Getting by isn't enough. Waiting for life to happen to you isn't enough. You've got to take the reins. You've got to build your identity around the leader within you, not the fear that's tried to silence it. Leaders make decisions the average person avoids. They do what's right, not what's easy. They show up when it's inconvenient. They tell the truth even when it shakes the room. And most importantly, they lead themselves first. They take responsibility. They take ownership of their time, their energy, their outcomes. They understand that their results are not luck. They're a direct reflection of the standards they uphold and the mindset they carry. You can't lead others while avoiding yourself. You can't expect respect from the world if you haven't learned to respect your own path. There's a version of you that's powerful beyond belief, a version that doesn't flinch in the face of difficulty, a version that's not afraid to speak truth, to walk alone if needed, to pursue a mission that scares you and excites you at the same time. That version isn't created by accident. It's forged through fire, through discipline, through relentless self-awareness, through the decision to no longer let fear, doubt, or mediocrity call the shots. Leadership is born the moment you stop blaming and start building. When you stop hiding and start showing up fully even when it's messy, even when it's uncertain. The world doesn't need more people surviving. It needs more people leading with courage, with purpose, with fire in their soul.